What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Breakdown Report here as we have our guests live and ready for this Breakdown Report. My name is Tavon Best, and we got Rich Hollenberg that's here. He's a four-time Emmy sports broadcaster who's going to be talking about his break-in and breakthrough program for today as far as broadcast development. Rich, glad to put you on here and help you out for today and pretty much talk about your development for today. I know we have football Sunday coming on, and we pulled you in for a 4 p.m. chat, but it's glad to have you here. I want to say how it is so far, especially calling games for Florida, but also for the ESPN side of things.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. We were talking before we came on the air. I don't cover any specific school. For the last 10 years, I've covered mostly the Big 12.
Right.
And I just go where my bosses send me. So it is true that I happened to be at UF earlier last week for a Wednesday night game on the SEC network. But, that's some of the fun of being a sportscaster and being in the position that I've been lucky enough to be in for the last 20 to 30 years is, wherever you're going, there's a game and, there's going to be a story to tell. And I love telling those stories through sports broadcasting.
That's great. And as of everything, how was that UF game for sure? I saw that you had a highlight with the 7'8" player. I forgot his name in particular, but he made a great
Olivier Rieu.
Yeah, he made a fantastic highlight from that game. It seemed like it was fun to call to see him for the game.
Yeah, I think, Tavon, it's a lesson in always being prepared for anything when
Right.
you go into a broadcast. We had a feeling that game was going to be a blowout. St. Francis is a much smaller school. They are struggling so far this year, and Florida's Florida. They're a top 10 team, even though they're ranked in the top 25 right now. I think when it all shakes out, they'll be a top 10 team. So we had a feeling that the margin was going to be what it was.
Right.
And because of that, we planned ahead. We said, let's be ready for Todd Golden to empty his bench. And if he does, we want to be able to tell those stories.
Right.
And Olivier Rieu is certainly, pardon the pun, maybe the biggest story of the bench players for the Gators. He's 7'9". He's literally listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's tallest teenager. And he had scored his first points earlier in the season with a free throw. But what we witnessed, and of all things by a dunk, we witnessed him getting his first field goal in his basketball career. So it was a little bit of history. And of course, we had as much fun with it on the broadcast as the Rowdy Reptiles did, the student section at UF who were at the game that.
I mean, that is great just to at least be prepared for the games that's coming up. And has said pretty much just having the preparation to have those players come out there, especially when coach emptied his bench. You don't really know much of the players or the information. You guys prepared and understood the assignment from that point on. And it takes me to broadcast development and being prepared from the first point. You worked as a play-by-play announcer from the time being, as a studio host, as a reporter, as a mentor. How important is the versatility to sustain a long career in sports broadcasting?
That's a great question, Tavon. One thing that I always tell aspiring sportscasters like yourself, people who I've mentored through the years,
Hmm.
there is value in versatility. And I'm very fortunate that I basically split my calendar in half. Half the year, I'm a studio host for the Tampa Bay Rays. I host their pre and post game shows. The other half of the year, I get to flex my play by play muscles. And so I get to do two different jobs during the same calendar year. And there's a lot of crossover between being a play by play announcer, being an anchor or a host, and also being a sideline reporter or a correspondent as a sportscaster. And that's one of the things that I've done through my program, my Break In and Breakthrough Sportscasting program, is discover, dig up all the most important things that aspiring sportscasters need to know, regardless of what position they want to get into. Because at the end of the day, you want to make yourself as indispensable an employee as you could be. So if you put yourself into a box and say, I'm going to be the best play-by-play announcer I could be, that's great. But you're also limiting yourself by doing that.
Right.
What I would advocate for, and I lived this throughout my career, is try to learn as much and be as good as you can at multiple disciplines so that when an opportunity arises, when that phone call comes, when you get that email, can you fill in, Tavon? We're in an emergency and someone called off. Are you able to take his spot, Tavon? Your answer, unequivocally, will be yes. I think that having a just say yes attitude is half the battle to succeeding in sportscasting, and being able to be versatile and being confident in that versatility is a key to feeling comfortable saying yes in any position.
Now, with the versatility aspect, is it something that you're basically developed as you went along with your career, or more so like out of to be necessary in terms of basically getting the job? Like, is it more going towards the early parts of your career, or you develop it as you went?
A little bit of both. I mean, the best way to learn is on the job training.
Right.
Getting reps is the most valuable thing you can do. Again, going back to that just say yes attitude. If someone offers you a job as a sideline reporter and you've never done it before, I would say you're cutting yourself off at the knees by saying, no, I'm going to pass. I've never done that before.
Right.
Instead, I would say yes to that opportunity and bust your hump figuring out how to do that job to the best of your ability. I learned through trial and error how to do all that. I was trained early on. I went to Syracuse, and the Newhouse School did a phenomenal job of getting me prepared post-college, but I didn't get a ton of reps in college. I knew the building blocks, we could call it, but only until you get out there and try it yourself and make mistakes and learn from your mistakes are you then going to develop a skill set in all of those avenues, let alone in one of those avenues. I used to be afraid that to be good at a bunch of things means you're never going to be great at one thing. Like there's a saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
But in this day and age, I think, and I think I'm living proof, you could excel at different things, and it doesn't have to be exclusive to just one of those things. And one of the reasons I started my mentorship program is to show people there is no one direct path to success in sportscasting. You certainly don't have to copy the way that I did it, because my path to success was up and down and sideways and backwards and slantways and diagonal. And everybody's is. Everybody has their own unique path to success, and you've got to get on that path to start, figuring out A, how to do the job, and B, how to be successful at that job.
And great points from that point of view. And again, as a young person, as far as myself as a broadcaster, it's been a journey, to say the least, and try to acquire those skills and get better at those skills and basically master those skills to a point where if somebody does call in, you have that skill set to basically fill in, do the job, be the yes man, and basically get it done to the T, to the where even the companies are impressed from that point of view. One thing that I wanted to point out was your early career. If I'm not mistaken, you covered for the New Jersey Nets during your time as well, the Associated Press as well. How did those foundational reporting roles shape your on-style today, or on-style reporting today?
Well, so you are correct. My first job, I guess you would call it sportscasting, even though it wasn't on TV and wasn't on the radio. It was for a now defunct company called Sportsphone. I was essentially a radio stringer, if you're familiar with what that is. There are a lot of people who work for radio stations, go to games, and every so often they'll call into the radio station to give a live update of what's happening at that game. That's essentially what I was doing with the New Jersey Nets for this company called Sportsphone. And I had to lean on the foundational journalism techniques that I learned in school. And so, did I fail a bunch of times? Sure, I stepped on my own toes. I stumbled. I didn't ask the right questions. All of that. But those are the best ways to learn. You have to go back and review your work and not beat yourself up over it, but say, how can I get better because of this? And so that helped me a lot, just kind of thrown me into the fire as a 22-year-old working an NBA beat at that time, surrounded by a bunch of grizzly journalism veterans. And then I got a job in Manhattan for the Associated Press, and that had nothing to do with sports. It had nothing to do with television. It had nothing to do with radio, but I just said yes, mostly because I wanted to move out of my parents' house and live in New York City for a while, because I didn't think I was ever going to get that opportunity again. And 30 years later, I was right in that assumption. But I was able to, with that job, move into New York City. I had 2 roommates and was living paycheck to paycheck, but it was a great education for me working at the Associated Press, which is kind of the journalistic cathedral of of learning what the rights and wrongs and do's and don'ts are as a reporter. So I was covering news stories, or at least surrounding myself with people who were doing that. And every once in a while, because I had an enterprising attitude, I would pitch stories to my boss, and he would be nice enough to agree to it and send me out to cover it. So those jobs, those were my first 2 real jobs in journalism, or in communications, if you will, out of college. And they taught me so much, not just because of what I did, but because of the people I was surrounded by while I was doing that.
That's awesome just to hear that, and again, from people that's taken in this interview as well, and it's basically the people that I'm broadcasting into from my school for Full Sail University. They would love to know, especially like that journey, that hardship, and going from there, especially with the new program that you have in here. I wanted to more go towards your biggest events that you cover, as far as the Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowls that you covered. What is the separation between national broadcast and local broadcast from that point of view, as far as being a local assignment or a national assignment?
Mhm. The essentials are the same, but when you reach a national level, you get a bigger set of toys to work with. You know,
Okay.
usually the people around you are more experienced and might have better, if not different, skill sets than working locally. Working locally, what you might come to find, or anybody watching this might come to find, which is what happened to me when I first moved down to the Tampa Bay area close to 30 years ago, is you're going to be asked to be a one-man band. And Tavon, this goes back to the versatility piece that you were asking me about earlier. Not only do you have to be versatile in the different roles of sportscaster, reporter, anchor, play-by-play announcer, but you also have to be skilled in all of the aspects of putting on a broadcast. When I first moved down to Tampa Bay close to 3 decades ago, I was the sports director for a local cable station. And I was shooting my own video, editing that video, writing shows, producing shows, and oh, by the way, I also had to host the shows. I was a reporter for the Bucks. I was a play-by-play announcer for high school sports and other professional sports. So I was doing everything. Did I know how to do all of that or any of that? Not really. But they hired me, and so I had to learn really fast how to be sufficient at it. And then once I got sufficient at it, in a short time, I had to press myself to be able to go from good to great. The role of going from 0 to good is actually not as difficult as it is going from good to great. When you go from good to great, it's a lot of little steps along the way. From knowing nothing to being good, if you have it within you, if you have the passion to match your talent, you could be good in a very short amount of time. But getting great from that good foundation is a lot more difficult. And I learned that in that job as sports director at the cable station. And then when I started working on a national platform, I kept telling myself, Tavon, just wait. If you get a gig on national TV, everything's going to be so much easier. Everything's going to be so much better. The dirty little secret is it's not. You might have more toys to work with. You might have better people to work with. The paychecks might be better, but it all comes back to your work ethic. And are you willing to do whatever it takes to be as good as you could be when that red light comes on and when you go on the air, on radio or on television? So the first Super Bowl I got to cover, I wasn't, a deer in headlights when the light came on,
right,
because I had been in that similar position hundreds of times already. It might have been on a high school football field or a college football field and not an NFL football field, but guess what? Field's still 110 yards long.
Yeah.
There are still goalposts in either end zone, and the middle of the field is still the 50-yard line. So all the work that I put in before I got to that moment or any of the big moments in my career, I was prepared for it. I might have been nervous, I might have had butterflies, but at the end of the day, I could be confident because I knew I was prepared for it.
And just to follow up on that, you were saying that pretty much the different ways of pretty much improving on the one-man band situation. The follow-up question I have for you: what mistakes has a younger broadcaster would make when preparing for those big moments, or what was the mistakes that you encountered during that time for more of the young broadcasters that's out there that's possibly listening in?
The biggest thing is I talk too much. I would prepare so much that I would have all this information in a notebook, because when I started, we didn't have cell phones or smartphones or anything like that.
Right.
So I would have so much written down in my notebook. And I would feel like, well, I spent all this time researching, preparing, studying for this game, for this interview, for this event, that all of it's important. All of it's value. And you know what? It is. But at the end of the day, the game tells you what information you should or shouldn't share. And that is the biggest mistake that most young broadcasters make, and I made it too, is we don't get paid by the word. If we did, it would be great, and we'd all just be vomiting up stats left and right and all day long, and we'd run out of breath, but we don't. And the fewer words you use, the more valuable those words become. It's just like economy. It's the law of supply and demand. If you can communicate in shorter phrases and clips and captions and sentences, it's going to be easier for the audience to digest and understand. And they're going to be leaning in, wanting to hear what you say more. Because if you talk too much, speak too much, they eventually will tune you out. And that's the last thing you want your audience to do. You want them going, wait, what did Tavon just say? That's really interesting. I better pay attention to what he's saying. If you could take all that information and boil it down to the essence of what's most important for that interview, for that game, for that event, then you're going to be steps ahead of your peer group, because almost everybody who's starting out, even if they don't think they are, they're talking too much, they're saying too much, or they're reading too much. Keep it short, keep it simple. That's what broadcasting is all about.
And with that, Rich, I talk about the break-in, breakthrough program that you're having for today, and basically as the founder of that for the training program, what is your biggest misconception for aspiring broadcasters, especially when they're getting hired into a company or towards a sporting event, if so?
What's my biggest misconception, or just the biggest misconception?
The biggest misconception for you.
The biggest misconception for aspiring broadcasters. That is that you have to do it by yourself.
Right.
And I think I've worked with and developed relationships with over 250 aspiring sportscasters in the last few years that I've started this program. We have 250 plus alumni. They're all at different stages of their careers. Some are just starting college, some are graduating college, some are in grad school, some are in their first or second jobs already out of college. So age does not is not a requirement in terms of being prepared or eligible for the break-in and breakthrough sportscasting cohort. What is having a baseline of talent, and I like to cherry pick. I don't like to work with people who only have 1 foot in. I want people who are ready to dive in the deep end and have a growth mindset and want to learn, and get better and get better and get better all the time. And then you have to have a passion for this craft. It's not just a job. It's not even just a career. It's a craft, much like acting or painting or something like that. There's an art form to being a successful sportscaster. I think a lot of up and coming sportscasters think I have to do this by myself. And once I do, I'll get an agent. And then the agent's going to help me go wherever I want to go. And I'm here to tell you, I have friends who are agents. I'm not saying agents are bad, evil people, because they're not. Agents could be very valuable to the 1%ers in our business.
Right.
Because when it comes to big time money and big time events, there needs to be someone speaking for you on your behalf. But when you're just starting out in this career, and even when you've already had your first couple of jobs and are maybe reaching that next level in your career, you don't need an agent, because all you are to them is a number and or a stepping stone. What you want to be able to do is advocate for yourself and point to my demo reel and my resume, and this is what I can do for you. If you have that attitude, not, can you give me a job? I would love to work at your television station. I would love to host your podcast. Can you help me? If you have a how can I help you attitude, it's going to help you a lot. And a big part of that, Tavon, is something we spend a lot of time on in the cohort, and that is the art of networking. Building a network of people, a group of people who you feel really strongly about, who you can trust for advice, who you can lean on in the tough times, who you can get support from, and maybe even let them help you get jobs somewhere else. Those are the people you want to surround yourself with. Most people on the come up don't realize how valuable networking is. And they certainly don't know how to go about building their network. I learned how to do it the hard way. No one taught me. I never took a class on it, and I don't believe to this day there's a college course or otherwise that you could take to learn about networking.
Is not one.
But I boiled it down to some essential elements that I spend years working on and perfecting and learning from my pitfalls, so that you don't have to fall into those traps anymore. And once you can surround yourself with people like that, with a root system like that, then you're cooking with gas, because you realize it's not just on me to find my next job, to critique my demo reel, to refine my resume, to introduce me to the right person. You build your network of people who you can count on in the industry, and they're going to help you do all of that. And having that around you is like a superpower. And I know from experience now that most people who are coming up don't realize that, how important it is, and don't know the value of having that at the start of your career and all the way throughout your career. And that's one of the big things that we help with.
No, definitely. As far as networking goes, I already know pretty much there's no college courses on that whatsoever, and pretty much that you have to get it from them, but also you have to show this attitude or show the presence of, hey, I can provide something towards you. I don't need a handout. I can definitely help a company at any point in time, but I can help
Right.
you. And I could basically provide my services to you, and I know I'm good at it, and I know I can do this. Definitely for sure, I 100% take that notion full sail, teach that 100%. But Rich, again, with your program, I feel as though that is the 100% basis, especially towards a broadcaster. What is the fastest way to adapt to a new network culture, if anything, especially when you're trying to get out there and trying to meet new people and try to basically get yourself out there?
You can't be shy. You can't be a wallflower. I liken it to, and I borrowed this from Scott Van Pelt, who told this story once, and I was like, that's a great analogy. Scott says the sportscasting business is like a cocktail party. And what are you going to do when you walk into a cocktail party? You walk through the doors and it's like, hey, there's Tavon. Hey, there's Rich. I've seen those guys before.
Right.
I'm just going to go over to the bar and get a drink and sit at this table by myself. Or you're going to say, hey, there's Scott Van Pelt. I'm going to go introduce myself to him.
Right.
There's someone who I've become friends with decades ago. He went to college with my sister, and now he's a big-time motivational speaker. His name's Jesse Itzler. And Jesse lives by this mantra. If I read about or see something on somebody who sparks something inside my head, who I'm impressed with, who I think I want to, learn from, I'll look them up. I'll reach out to them. I'll go introduce myself to them, and I'll say, hey, my name's Jesse. I want to be your friend. And now not all of us are going to be able to do that or want to do that, but the essence of that is something that all of us can learn from and be inspired by. You cannot sit on the sidelines if you want to build your career. No one's going to hand it to you. No one's going to do anything for you. It's not that kind of an industry. You have to go out there and take it. So one of the ways to take it is to start by introducing yourself to people. And the interesting thing about networking is it sounds very business-like, and it is because we're talking about business, but it's really about relationships.
Right.
And relationships work when they're two-way relationships. So just like I said, when you're looking for jobs, it's not, will you please give me this job? I really want this job. Can you help me? It's, hey, nice to meet you. I understand that you're looking for a reporter. I think I can help you. I'd really like to help you. I'd love to talk to you more about that opportunity. It's the same thing with networking. It doesn't have to start off with, Scott Van Pelt, it's great to meet you. Would you mind looking at my demo reel? It's, Scott Van Pelt, great to meet you. I've been such a big fan of yours for so long. I'd love to give you my phone number and get yours or get your email. And maybe at some point I could reach out to you and start a conversation. And you know what? More often than not, no matter who you're asking that of, they'll say yes. Because 99% of the people in our business are good people. And they're nice. And they had people help them just like you're looking for help at this stage in your career. So when those relationships start, it's not all about the work and how can you help me. It's more about just building a foundation of a relationship so that when the time comes and you really need that person, you can email them or text them and they'll be like, one of two things. It'll be, who the hell is this Tavon kid? I don't know who he is. Oh, he reached out to me a year ago and I haven't heard from him since. I'm too busy. I'm sorry. I'm way too busy to help someone that I don't even remember and someone who hasn't reached out to me in a while.
Right.
Or it could be, oh look, my man Tavon just texted me. We were just talking a month ago about, the NFL season, about the NFL playoffs. Tavon, what's going on? Oh yeah. Oh, there's a job opportunity you wanted my advice about? Yeah, let's set up a call. I'd be happy to walk you through it. That's how it works. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic bullet to it. That's how it works. You got to put in the time. You got to lay the foundation. But one thing you can't do is sit on the sidelines and expect it to happen for you. You have to make it happen yourself.
100% understood. And we could, yeah, with networking, pretty much reaching out is probably the best thing to do as far as anything, but also not to sound desperate or not to seem like it's a one-way street where
Right,
you're basically um, looking for opportunity and looking to move up from this person. You're more looking towards a opportunity to basically continue on that relationship with that person or that somebody that you're reaching out to, and
right,
also providing them with some good conversation as well, regardless if they're busy or not. You just want them to basically know of your presence, but also have that relationship with them further down the line. You may never know who that person may be later down the line, if even if they're famous or even if they're not at the highest of standards as of right now. That person could help you in the long run. That other person that you're talking to also could get some opportunities from you. So
right.
100% understood, and great answer to that one. My next question to you is: how do you feel broadcasters adjust to those environments in terms of basically major sports broadcasting, such as ESPN, MLB Network, or somebody like NFL Network? If so, how do you feel like a younger broadcaster would adjust to those environments from that point of view?
Um, well, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Related to networking,
As
or is
related
that
to networking, I do apologize.
no need to apologize? I just want to make sure I'm answering your question that you're asking.
Right.
I think, again, going back to what I said earlier, you can't be shy. You cannot be intimidated. One thing I share in my cohort is I go all the way back to high school, and one of my favorite teachers was my Spanish teacher, Mrs. Dunn.
Right.
She was the first one to say this, and I've carried it with me my entire adult life. Don't ask, don't get. It's as simple as that. If you are not confident enough, strong enough, brazen enough to ask for something, you can't expect to be receiving anything. No one's going to hand you any gifts here out of the kindness of their own heart. So if you don't ask, you're not going to get. If you want to build a relationship with Scott Van Pelt, with Rich Hollenberg, with Jim Nance, with Ian Eagle, you have to ask. You have to
Right.
figure out a way to get in front of that person. If you don't, it's no one's fault but your own. So that's how broadcasters have to adjust to those environments. Maybe you grew up, you know, and you're not used to working for a living. You're still a student. A lot of these things, even though you're studying hard and you're earning your grades and maybe you're earning your role in student run operations, television or radio wise, you still have a bubble of protection. You're insulated. When you get out into the working world, you're exposed. And so you have to prepare yourself to overcome the shyness or the intimidation factor or whatever it is in order to get where you want to go in your career. So, you know, if you want to boil it down, it's as simple as those four words: don't ask, don't get.
It's like the expression of a closed mouth don't get fed.
That's
Pretty
right.
much, and if you just do not say nothing whatsoever, yeah, you will not
Right.
get any further in the advancement. My next question to you for today is: how have media platforms influenced broadcasters to basically being expected to contribute today? Like how, from your time, how is it a
Mhm.
little bit different compared to today as far as the influence
It's
goes?
it's really different.
Yeah.
You all have it a lot easier than I did in
Right.
some ways, but it's also a lot more difficult for you all in some ways. Here's why. I like to say broad sportscasting now is a mile wide, but it's also only an inch deep. And the people who get into the deep end are the one percenters, calling NFL football games, calling Major League Baseball games. You know those big time jobs that I'm talking about.
Right.
Only 1% of us get to do those games. Everything else that's out there is for guys like you and me, the grinders. I still count myself among those people. I'm a grinder. I'm still working all the time at getting better at what I do. Why? Because I want to see how good I could possibly be. And I, just like anybody else, I want more games, I want better games, and I want to be compensated for doing that kind of work.
Right.
So you have to be able to put in the work, but you also have to realize at this stage of the game, with streaming services and digital properties, there's more opportunities than ever before for you to get involved and get some reps. It's just that once you do, you cannot be satisfied with that because there's more people than ever who are doing that. Like you put the plus next to those four letters of ESPN, and young people are like, hey, look at me, I'm on ESPN. Well, that's great. You are. But you're on ESPN Plus. And how do you make that leap from ESPN Plus to ESPN Linear, as we call it, on television? And that's a big, big leap. So you can't be over anxious. You have to understand that you're going to pay your dues. Sometimes it's going to be a year or 2 years. Sometimes it might be 10 years. I have friends who are at the Major League Baseball level who spend years and years toiling in the minor leagues. And when you're working as a broadcaster in the minor leagues, Tavon, you're making peanuts and you're working harder than you're ever going to work in your life. But if you love that and you embrace the suck, as I like to say, of those situations, instead of saying, this is terrible, how come I don't get my shot, this is so unfair, I've worked so hard, why me? If you don't feel sorry for yourself and instead you say, I'm building, I'm building, I'm building, eventually you're going to get to the place you want to get. But everyone's timeline is different. So a mile wide, there's more opportunities than ever before in sportscasting, streaming, digital, podcasts, all of that didn't exist when I was on the come up. But because of that, there's more people, more competition, and a lot of these job opportunities will only take you to a certain level of your career. It then becomes up to you to figure out how to break through that level to get to the level you want to get to.
And for someone that's pretty much starting out as a sports broadcaster, has it right now, and pretty much going through those steps and knowing that, hey, we have to develop into the best person that we can be, as far as sports broadcaster, but also getting onto the major networks, where early experiences tend to provide that long-term value out of you, or pretty much get you towards that long-term output that you were saying, as far as going from ESPN Plus to that linear TV broadcast network that you will want to get to?
I think it's just having that growth mindset is the most important thing. And realizing that even though you might be working paycheck to paycheck and you might be only covering high school sports, and we're all ambitious and we're all looking ahead, and when is it going to happen for me? Am I ever going to get, the success that I dreamed of getting? When all those doubts and all those fears and all those anxieties start taking over, you have to step aside, take a deep breath, and understand that at some point in your life, you're going to look back on this time and say, that was the most valuable time of my life. Because that's when I was learning the most. And having a growth mindset is all about that mental state of keeping your nose to the grindstone and saying, right now, it's hard. Right now, it's super competitive. But everything I'm doing is leading me on this path. And I'm creating this path as I'm walking along it. It's not laid out for me and I just have to figure out how to follow it. You're building this path every step you take. And then eventually, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, you look behind you at that whole path that you've carved by yourself, for yourself. You're going to say, look at all the people who helped me. Look at all the great experiences I had. all the things I'd done, all of that made this possible, right now possible. And it happened for me, and I know it's going to happen for anybody else who buys in that way with a growth mindset. But you have to have a growth mindset. There is nothing that is going to keep me from doing everything in my power to get better, to keep learning, and to keep understanding what it takes to win in this business.
I was just about to say for the follow up, and you hit on a great point as far as growth potential, the growth process of basically getting to that point. What signals that growth process or that growth potential for you, and especially for a person that already experienced that? When you do look at a young broadcaster, what signals that growth potential towards that person for you?
I think the essence of having a growth mindset, because it's like a big picture idea, right?
Right.
But an example of that is seeking out and receiving critical feedback, right? We live in an age, and you've grown up in an age,
Right.
where social media is all encompassing. We have it on our phones. We're looking at it all day and all night long. And what do we get from social media? We get heart-shaped emojis, and we get thumbs ups and likes, and we get followers, and we get people saying, Tavon, that's awesome that you're doing that. Tavon, what a cool gig you have. Tavon, what an awesome experience. And that's great, but that's all fluff. That's all style and no substance. You need substance to grow your career. And the only substance that gives you that is critical feedback, right? So people and everyone I talk to about this thinks that I'm like a social media hater, and I'm not at all. I'm on it too. I love it. I built my business on social media. But what I warn people about is don't use social media as the only form of feedback you're going to get, because you're going to call a game, right? And maybe it's the first ever game you've called. And the first thing you're going to want to do is shout it from the rooftops. Hey, I just did play-by-play of this football game, of this basketball game, because you're proud, because you're putting yourself on the path. But what if your performance was not up to par, right? Because I know the first time I was on the air, I stunk. I didn't have the luxury of choosing whether or not to put it on social media, because social media didn't exist at the time. So I didn't have to worry about it. But everyone in this generation is so quick to post everything they're doing to make it look good and to get positive feedback that you can't wait to do that. My cautionary tale is what happens when you post so much stuff about look at me, look at me, look at me. Eventually, someone's going to say, oh, Rich is looking for a job? Okay, I saw his resume, I saw his demo reel. Now let me look at his social media. And you start scrolling through social media and you see all these posts. Let me click on one of these posts. And it's from a game you did a year ago when you were half as good as you are now. And he's going, wait a minute, this is the same Rich that I saw on that demo reel? Maybe the demo reel is not as accurate as this video reel looks like. You know what? I'm going to pass. I was sold on Rich first, but now I'm not.
Right.
That's the potential trouble that social media can cost you. Just like putting your social life on social media could come back and hurt you. You've heard all the stories like I have of athletes who have gotten themselves in trouble around draft time.
Yeah.
You know, baseball players, football players, basketball players who then have to get in front of microphones and say, I'm sorry about this post I put on social media 3 years ago. I wasn't thinking and I was insensitive. And all of a sudden, you're distracted from his performance or her performance. As sportscasters, that's all we want you to focus on is our performance. Don't focus on anything else. So critical feedback is going to make you better. Social media feedback is not. They are two completely different things.
Gotcha, and that's really speaks hard to just what we doing as far as broadcasters as well. It really resonated, and that was a great advice towards me because I try to avoid as much as possible with social media and try to more focus on performance. But social media has every day, like especially going to your phone, you always looking down on your phone just to see an update as far as football game, basketball game, baseball game, or so, and trying to see what's going on, and it distracts you from the actual thing that you're trying to practice on, which is your performance, how you look on camera. Are you speaking directly to the camera? Are you speaking to the audience at home? And especially so, I 100% agree with that take and advice. My last question to you for today, Rich, and I do appreciate you again coming in, basically giving advice to everybody. Can you give one more advice to the younger broadcasters that's out there? What is your best advice for young broadcasters looking to start in this industry?
Well, the easy answer, Tavon, is go to my website and join my cohorts. But outside of that, honestly and truthfully, and I tell this to everybody who's part of the cohorts that I run,
Right.
um, getting out there and getting experience is the best instructor. There's nothing that I could say or show you or advise you on or share with you that is going to be more valuable than you getting out there and doing it.
Right.
And that's why I say having that just say yes attitude is so important. I can't take anybody, Tavon, Joe Smith, Jennifer Simpson, I can't take anybody and say, let me just work with you and I am going to make you a great sportscaster. I can't do it. Nobody can. Only you can make yourself a great sportscaster. Now, can I give you some inroads to doing that? Can I give you some really good, well earned advice? Absolutely. Can I show you the pitfalls to avoid that I made when I was your age? Absolutely, I can. Can I give you some tips and tricks on how to improve your performance? 100% I can. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to take all that information and make it work for you on the air. When that microphone's in your hand, when the headset goes on, when the red light comes on the camera, how are you going to perform? And the only way to get used to it and to excel at it is to do it and do it again and do it again and do it again. Get reps any way you can. That's my best advice.
Rich, I highly appreciate you for the advice that's out there for the younger broadcasters. And I always want to leave off the show before we end off things, obviously introducing your program and your training program from here. So I'm just going to put it on the screen and also going to
Great.
have the link and also the QR code for anybody that's there to basically view and also go on the website for you for today. So I'm going to let you have at it, introduce your break-in and breakthrough sportscaster training. I'm going to have it on the screen for you today.
All right. It's just my name, richhollenberg.com. You can click on a link and get in touch with me. And I'm happy to talk to you just like I was happy to talk to you today, Tavon. I love the interaction that I get with young, aspiring sportscasters because I learned from so many people ahead of me. I like to say I stood on their shoulders, and now it's my turn to pay it forward to the next generation of sportscasters.
I appreciate it for today, Rich. And again, at one point, I didn't think that we were going to actually speak for today, but I appreciate this interview so much, and especially as far as the younger sports broadcasters that's going to be watching this and basically experiencing this for today. I'm pretty sure my teacher will basically be like, whoa, you got Rich Hollenberg? What's going on here for today? But otherwise, from that point of view, as I want to say, I appreciate you so much for coming in. This is the Breakdown Report that we do a bunch of breakdowns, a bunch of everything for younger sports broadcasters for today. And we want to say, have a great day, ladies and gentlemen, and see you guys later. And make sure you pick up a mic and basically get on it for today. We appreciate you guys. You have a great and blessed day.